Welcome to the Sales Leader of Influence show. For sales leaders who lead with soul, spirit, and spine. In a world obsessed with tactics, this is the show for those who know leadership is personal. And here's your host, Bernadette McClelland.
Hey, and welcome to this week's Sales Leader of Influence show. And we have our very first guest for this show. So I mentioned last week that I have been doing this show solo for a number of weeks now. And I am super excited to share that my very first guest this week has come from a very unique background and not your typical sales leadership background, but man, has his experience got some relevance to sales leadership and sales today. So it's my absolute pleasure to introduce somebody who was a former professional blackjack player and card counter. So Joel Block was a member of a very elite team of players. And he regularly took money from Las Vegas. And who does not want to do that? Regularly took money from Vegas, and then he moved on to another big casino known as Wall Street. And it was here in Wall Street where he has spent most of his career. And he's been doing deals in Wall Street as a venture capitalist and in the hedge fund world, where the deals have been well and truly over $1 billion, and that's billion with a B. Makes my multi-million dollars in corporate seem quite small. And what he's learned in that field in Wall Street, doing deals at that level, he is going to share some ideas with us today to help you sales leaders to actually think and see and act differently when it comes to how you operate your businesses. So that you can win deals inevitably. And so it's my absolute pleasure to introduce Joel Block. So come on in, Joel. How are you?
Oh, Bernadette, I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
Excellent. And it's my, we met, we actually didn't meet. We had tried to meet a couple of times, a couple of years ago. And then when was it? A few months ago, we met for lunch.
Yeah, that's right.
And over our conversation over lunch, I thought to myself, you have got some ideas that I think are just so relevant today, especially the times that we're in now, because I think leaders, sales professionals are looking for some kind of an edge. And I think you've just got ideas that will help them think differently.
Well, I'll tell you what, what's worked before is not necessarily going to be working going forward.
Yeah.
And we all have to think different. And if I can help just a little bit with that, fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we were talking, you have a phrase and I have a phrase, but I think we have different, I think we think about this phrase differently. And I didn't pursue it when you said that to me, but I'd love to pursue it now. And that is that we have different we think different, not you and I think differently, but people think differently. And the phrase is you can either play to win or you can play not to lose.
Yeah.
And I have an angle of that, but I think your angle is different. Do you want to share what you mean by that?
Yeah. I would, listen, for me, having played blackjack early in my career, and I became one of the best players in the world, and I was recruited onto one of the great teams in the world at that time. And the team was owned by a gambler out of New Jersey, a very famous guy that has written about 50 books on gambling, a really well-known guy. And, when you play at that level, you learn some things. And I learned what it felt like to be at the top of my game. I learned what it felt like to be around other people who did that. I learned how hard I had to work. And I just get what that is. And you show up and the only goal is to win. That's it. And, I've just used the blackjack metaphor in so many of the things that I do. Now, I don't teach people how to play blackjack. This is not about blackjack. This is about business.
Mm-hmm.
But Uh, I would say number one, most people have no idea what game they're even playing. They have no idea what they're doing. They get to work, they do what they do, but they really don't. Are they playing the political game? Are they playing the I'm really important game? There's all these little games that people play, and they're not necessarily about winning, but the play to win, play not to lose. This is a really good one. Um, if you are playing not to lose, what that means is that you're hunkered down, you're not taking a lot of risk. Like in April, the president announced all these tariffs, and companies got paralyzed, they got nervous. The smartest companies the next day were taking action that they thought was going to result from the actions the president had taken the day before. And I don't care if you agree with the president, you don't agree with the president. The worst thing you could do is to disagree and be so mad you don't take any action, because then you're just punishing yourself. So to me, I took immediate and swift action, doing the things that I thought were going to be beneficial. And sure enough, they turned out to be pretty accurate and correct. And I would tell companies that the same thing. If you're playing not to lose, you're just hunkered down. If you're playing to win, when the markets are soft, you're doing more advertising when everybody else stops. If you're playing to win, when they stop hiring, you start hiring the best people who become available to you. And you start making moves that are really in your interest.
But in order to do that, though, you have to be positioned.
Well, that's part of your job every single day, is to put yourself in position to win. So that here's the thing about blackjack is I'm sitting there counting the difference between high cards and low cards. I'm balancing the way it works. And when I know that the deck is in my favor, that's when I push the chips forward. And that's the same thing in business, is when you know that the chips are, the deck favors you, that's when you got to push your chips forward. And if you're not ready, then I would tell you to don't even bother to play, because you're just wasting other people's time and you're going to embarrass yourself and embarrass other people if you're not ready. So
So on that note, so I agree. I I've only played a couple of games of poker, so you're probably talking to the wrong person here. However, you're right. This is not about playing cards. This is about playing. Well, this is about. It's not about blackjack. It's about lots of other things. Where can you see that leaders, and I mean we're talking sales leaders here, but it could be anybody really. Where can you see them playing it safe?
well, that's what I'm saying, is they play it safe all the time. If they're hunkering down and protecting their turf, not not helping the company to get bigger, not helping people to expand the way that they think and the actions that they take. So probably the best example is advertising. When the markets get slow, most companies pull back on advertising. But the way that I counsel companies and the way that I've always operated, and remember that I've been involved in about 40 different deals, running all different kinds of companies. And when the markets get slow, to me, what that means is that market share is going on sale. It's cheaper to get market share in a down market than it is when everybody else is excited and rushing in. So when things are soft, and they have been soft, and people have been paralyzed with fear and they're nervous, and I get all those things. But the advantage players, the really, really strong players, what they do is they say, I get that this is tough, but everybody else is hunkered down, and this is my opportunity to take market share away from them for a very low price. Because in regular times, that's not when you can do that. That's when they start letting people go. That's when they let their guard down, by the way. And
Yeah.
that's when you can swoop in and hire the best people and take advantage of the opportunity that they're busy trying to protect against. But I'm just going to tell you that when you play not to lose, you've already lost.
Yeah, it's that scarcity mindset, and it's and I can hear it out there. It's like cut costs, versus invest in some good people, for example.
Yeah.
or invest in marketing, so it is that scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset if you wanted to go down that path.
Exactly.
So if you were to say, let's just say, for example, you were to say to a sales leader who's got a team, and they've got clients out there, and you've got a pipeline, and the pipeline, pipelines get bloated, pipelines get stuck for whatever reason, and you've also got that mindset where it is, let's play not to lose, let's play to win, and you've got people that do not want to let go of names that are in the pipeline. So, any advice, for example, on knowing when to, here we've got a little bit of Johnny Cash, I think it's Johnny Cash, knowing when to walk away,
Oh,
or knowing when to double down
yeah,
and invest the resources
yeah.
in building for the future.
You have to. I always put out little tests. I use these things. I call them high limit questions. And a high limit question is it's the kind of question that gets people to think differently. So if you're talking to a prospect, you're going to ask them certain kinds of questions, and we look at situational intelligence. We look at predictive logic, hints, tells, signs, and cues, different things that people do that kind of tip us off. And we're very sensitive. And I get other people around me to be very, very sensitive to what they notice. And if you get the sense that somebody's pulling on your leg, then your time is valuable as a salesperson. You may not be paid on an hourly basis, but your time is very valuable. And if people don't respect you, that's not a good indication that things are going to be moving forward for you. So you want to be rather quick. Now, what gives you the ability to do that is your pipeline. If you don't have a good pipeline filled with lots of opportunities, so let's say you got one or two opportunities and that's all you got, you're going to hold on to that for dear life, probably way, way beyond what's reasonable. Versus if you had 20 of them, you'd say, you know what, this is just not where the juice is, and I'm going to move on to something where I think there's a lot more dough. And that's really, that's a big part of it. So your ability to emotionally distance yourself from a situation has a lot to do with the numbers game of having a good pipeline. And if you don't have that, then you're compromised. So you need to know that that's going to be one of your hints, tells, signs, or cues that tells you how you're likely to behave. But then you're watching the customer, you're watching the prospect, and you're looking for things that, and you got to be careful about confirmation bias. Like if you're looking for him to shake his head no, and they shake their head no, that doesn't mean no. That maybe you're looking for the wrong thing. So you got to be very careful. But you really want to be paying attention to what you're seeing, and be prepared to walk away. And by the way, oftentimes when you walk away is exactly when they want you more. And I'll use a phrase like this. I'll say, listen, are we going to work on this, or should I just close the file? There's something about telling somebody you're going to close the file that is so disturbing to them. It's so upsetting. It is so emotionally aggravating. No, don't close the file. We're going to decide in a week. They just start coughing up information because there's something so final about that. And when you can very being emotionless, and say, look, I'd like to do this with you, but my livelihood doesn't really matter based on this deal. So should I close the file, or are we going to move forward? I need to know one way or the other. Just say yes or no.
Yeah.
Tell me which.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different parts to that as well. I mean, Robert Cialdini, if you've done any work around the laws of influence, and that I talk about scarcity and abundance because that's that desperation, that scarcity. I've come from that lack mindset, but then there's the law of scarcity, which is, if you take something, any of us who are parents, and you go through the checkout where there's sweets, and kids want sweets, you give them a sweet, they'll want to take it away and they'll want it more. It's that law of scarcity. When you take something away from somebody, they want it more. Yeah. So if you have the ability emotionally or emotionlessly to lose the attachment to the outcome and you have that ability to be able to say, you know what, are we done, or you know, just like what you said,
Yeah.
and you have no, then that makes them lean in more if it is something that they do want from
Right.
it.
So you kind of, you get them to kind of put it out there on the table. And
Yeah, but
probably the hardest thing, and it's maybe the most necessary thing, is for salespeople. And I love salespeople. I was never a salesperson that carried a bag, but I've sold more stuff than most salespeople. I mean, I've raised $100 million, and I've been involved in a lot of selling related kinds of transactions. Um, but most of what I've sold has been ideas. It has not
mm,
been product. It's really been invisible things, which are hard to sell. You got to sell vision and compassion, passion, the rest. So, um, but it's if you are attached to the thing, you are going to compromise your future. You have to learn how to distance yourself.
yeah,
When I was playing cards, sometimes I'd win, sometimes I'd lose. And that's part of why Las Vegas turns your money into chips, because people have less attachment to chips than they
yeah,
do to money.
yes.
So there's a lot of emotional trickery going on here, and you have to learn how to do that to your advantage.
That I guess is the poker face. It's like, the losing the whole emotional
Yeah.
attachment to the outcome. And I mean, this is all part of money as well.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
it's that emotions that come with it.
I
So
mean, imagine if you're sitting thinking to yourself, I got to make a mortgage payment this week, and if this guy doesn't close, I'm in deep trouble. I
yeah,
mean, you're not going to be able to release that guy. You're
that's
not
right.
going to be able. You're gonna look desperate, and I can tell you that guys like me, I spent my life in the snake pit with some of the toughest business people in America. I could smell that from 5 miles away.
Totally.
And if and I'm not the only one that can do that, by the way. And if somebody can tell how desperate you are, they are going to work you over to the point where you will be sorry that you got up that day.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't have to be Wall Street, or you don't have to be the casino. You've got corporate America out there doing it to
Yeah,
salespeople every single day, and
every
they are,
day, and
yeah,
hey, some people are better at it than others, but I'll tell you that most people can smell sweat.
yeah. And I mean, I know I've had my time in corporate Australia where I was a victim of that. But speaking of, I guess, incentives or money or compensation, comp plans, while we're talking about all of this, and we're talking about Wall Street, and we're talking about casinos, and if we bring in high stake incentives, or we bring in comp plans, or we bring in all of this, what are your thoughts on a sales leader, I guess, recognizing, or what's a good way for a sales leader to structure, a comp plan or recognition when it comes to rewarding advantage players? Like, I mean, advantage players for you, is somebody with an advantage player mindset.
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer in this context because there's so much to it. Um, the comp plan that the sales department has is going to be a function of some philosophy that somebody in upper management has.
Yep.
So it's very difficult for me to give any advice here, but I will tell you that I don't think that all people need to be paid the same.
Yes.
I mean, I just simply reject that there are going to be some people who are going to complain. Uh, some jobs are worth more than other jobs, and if you're in sales and you have a lower base and a bigger upside, I mean, that's a reasonable trade off for risk. And if somebody has a guaranteed deal in the accounting department and they get a certain amount every single month, that's a different thing. So different companies have different philosophies about this. Companies also have different philosophies about capping a salesperson, that there's a maximum that you can make on a transaction. And it just, listen, one thing about sales, especially in organizations, is that one person doesn't do everything by him or herself. There are many people that typically contribute to something. Somebody found the lead, some marketing department sourced this, or there was a TV advertisement that stimulated that. So you have to take all those factors into account. If they're smaller companies, sometimes there could be an equity opportunity for somebody that's a long-term a potentially really good deal for someone. So there's lots of different ways to do this. But I will tell you that number one, I don't think that all people deserve to be paid the same thing. Maybe the structure for all the people in the sales department needs to be similar, but some people are going to make a lot and some people aren't, and that's okay.
Mm.
The other thing is that I'm in favor of paying really high performers a really high number. I think that high performers deserve a lot. Here's the irony in our society, and I know you're in the United States for 3 or 4 years, and this world that our world's a little different than maybe your world. I'm not quite sure entirely how, and that'd be an interesting discussion too. But um, to me, high performers are really important for a couple of reasons. The vast majority of training dollars goes to the middle and the bottom. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because the majority of sales trainers and leadership trainers and management trainers and the other people never got much above the middle or the bottom. So if you never got much above the middle or the bottom, you can't really work with the highest performers.
I
And so
agree.
the vast majority of those people work at the middle and the bottom. The other thing is that the middle and the bottom tends to squeak more than the people at the top. They complain, hey, listen, we need more training, we need more of this, we need more of that. And I'm not saying nothing should go to the middle or the bottom, but I'll tell you this. You can put all your training resources into the middle and the bottom, and it will not move the needle on your company 1 degree, not one bit. These people, they need to understand compliance, they need to know how to be polite and how to be in conformance with the law. But if you want really big return on your money, put it in your top performers. Put the money into your top people, because if you can get them to be 1% better, your top 10%, if you get them 1% better, your company is going to go it's going to go crazy, the trajectory. And companies frequently don't think about this. So CEOs will say to me, Joel, I don't like to really bother our top performers. I mean, these guys, they don't want us to bother them. That's not true. The top performers are the ones who crave getting better the most, but they don't want to be micromanaged. They don't want you to get in their face and say, hey, listen, take one step to the right and then another step to the left. That's what they don't want. But they absolutely want to have opportunities to get better. And I'll tell you this, the better the company gets, the more people on the outside will take notice of that. And then the high performers from other companies will come and say, hey, listen, you look like a great place to work. I'd like to come to your company. And then you end up being a giant team of high performers. And that's the granddaddy of them all.
I agree with you. I disagree with a little bit of the middle. There are some in the middle that are craving to become top, but they just
Well,
need
so
some
here,
help.
so here's what happens is the people at the top it's sort of like a club that anybody can join if they're willing to do the work.
That is exactly it. It's
Okay,
the
now, so what happens is the people in the middle see the people at the top and they're going, man, that looks really, really good up there. Look at, they're getting special training, they're getting special perks, all these great things are happening. How do I get up there? And if they raise their hand and they say, I would like to do the work it takes to get up to that club, then somebody who's up toward the top, one of those advantage players up there, reaches down and pulls that person up. So I am absolutely in favor of bringing up the middle people, but the middle people they're not going to accelerate themselves alone. But the people at the top can pull those middle people up and give them some guidance about how to be a top performer. They can give them mentorship. They can create a buddy system. So everything that we do, and we work with top performers across the country. We work with the top 10% of people, and then we work with the 10% below that has the potential to be top performers. And now, is it possible somebody could be in the 60th percentile? It's probably unlikely, but I'll tell you what, you're going to get a 70 or 80% person that's going to say, I want to be a 90. And you know what? If they're willing to do the work, if they're willing to learn, whatever that means, there's no doubt about it that they could absolutely do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a question I was going to, because you've worked in such an elite space, when you look at your teams that you've worked in, and then you look at the teams that we've just been talking about now, what would you say is a skill or a characteristic or an attribute that is an absolute non-negotiable for building that advantage player, for that real top performer,
Yeah.
an absolute non-negotiable, because it is about doing the work, but it's not necessarily about doing the knowledge work.
Well, let's put it like this: if you're a sales manager or a leader in the company, you cannot tolerate underperformance. You cannot tolerate it. Now, coming from the Wall Street business, we have about a 15-minute window. And when you notice something isn't right, 15 minutes later, that person is thrown overboard. I mean, I hate to say it and be crude, but we have a very, very short fuse. And let me promise you, it's better to be like that because so much of corporate America, so many, even middle sized companies, they tolerate underperformance. They put people on performance plans. They put people on all these different, they coddle them. These people they're not getting better because they don't want to. If they wanted to, they'd already be better. It's not that they don't understand what to do. It's not that the rules aren't clear. And if the rules aren't clear, then management needs to take responsibility, make the rules clear. But if they've made the rules clear, then the person who's having the problem needs to be told that, look, this is how we do things around here. And we expect this is what you're going to do around here. And if you don't do them, then we're not for each other. And that's it. I mean, and that's just how it is. I mean, listen, I think a lot about sports. Would anybody tolerate having somebody on first base that wasn't the best first baseman that the team had? I mean, nobody would tolerate having a substandard shortstop or anything else. No one would ever tolerate it. But yet we tolerate it in our companies all the time. And to me, that is the kiss of death.
I
So,
agree. I,
that's,
I agree. And it truly frustrates me when I see sales teams that have got really great potential players, but the coach is letting the team down, and the team manager is not doing anything about the coach,
yeah.
and that is where my
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm not one to shift blame too much. I mean, I like everybody to be responsible, but the management cannot allow the players to be substandard in their positions, and that's it. If they are, then maybe you give them a little more training, and if the training doesn't work, then you reorganize, and
yeah.
that's just what has to happen.
Yeah, but it's like it's so before we finish up, there's just another. So thank you for that. But there's another phrase like betting big, betting big. When we talk about betting big, I mean, I guess that's risk taking, and where's that line? I guess how would you describe, or how would you share your thoughts on risk taking?
Well, let's put it like this: each company kind of has to try to figure out the system for their industry, for their environment, for their world, for their team, and when the stars line up in a certain way, according to what you guys have figured out is right for you, you say, "Wow, this is really a big opportunity. We need to go all in on this opportunity." So you need to kind of have some grades. This is a 1 point. When it looks like this, it's 1 point. When it looks like this, it's 2 points. When it looks like this, it's three. And maybe you have a couple different grades where you say that when this happens, this is the kind of thing that we do. And you know that's why I'm saying it's hard for me to put one statement that applies to everyone. Every industry is so different. But I think you need to look at your industry, and you might need some outside help to do that. You may not be able to do that by yourself, but you need to look at your industry and say, look, when these circumstances exist, this is what we're going to do. When these kind of circumstances exist, this is what we're going to do. And that's the way that you're going to really have to move forward on some things.
Yeah, and I suppose that's a case of understanding and really, really knowing what the gaps are, so that you can say, okay, well, what are those points, and what are the minus points or the plus points, and what are the gaps, and when do we bring the big guns in, and how do we address those points, I guess.
Exactly. Listen, and I mean, you have to know what your capabilities are. I mean, what if your manufacturing department can't keep up with the sales department? Because the sales department, what if they're too strong?
Exactly.
I mean, that's so you have to kind of know, what all your what all your toy soldiers are capable of before you can put them into battle.
Love it, love it, love it. Now, before we finish up, how can people contact you? Because you have a philosophy that you work with. It's think, see, act. Mine is deliberate disruption, which is very similar as I think, feel, act, which is kind of a similar alignment. So how can people contact you, and where can they connect with you? Because I think, you're so unique. So
I'm very easy to find. I'm out there everywhere. I've got a big LinkedIn following. You can reach me by email at joel@theadvantageplayer.com, or you can just go to the website, theadvantageplayer.com, or look me up on LinkedIn. I mean, just very easy to find. And I am very happy to put you on my calendar, talk to you, and give you some counseling, particularly if you're a senior leader at a company. I like to talk to senior leaders. And I like to work with those people and help them. I'm a really big believer in middle-sized companies. Middle-sized companies built this great nation of ours, and it's these high-skilled workers, these great red, white, blue-collar workers that are really responsible for so much. We're talking about sales, but there's a lot of really critical people that if it weren't for them, the salespeople would have nothing to sell. So I think we have to be aware of that. But I'm happy to take a call or a meeting with a strategy session. You want a little help, happy to help you. Put yourself on my calendar, and I think there should probably be a link on that The Advantage Player website, and I'm happy to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And the real game, as I say, isn't the cards that we're dealt. It is how we play them, and what a great, pardon the pun, but it's a great exit.
It's not a pun, Bernadette. That's my life.
It is, absolutely is. And
you have to play the cards you're dealt.
Absolutely.
And you got to play them to the best of your ability every single day, every single hand.
We certainly do. And I just want to say a huge thank you. And to anybody listening who wants to reach out to Joel, he's just a really interesting conversation to have. So highly, highly recommend you do that. And for those of you who know me, please don't hesitate, salesleaderofinfluence.com, and download my white paper there on the shift that sales leadership is going through right now, and the paradigm shift that you may need to look at moving toward as well. So on that note, have an amazing week. Continue to lead with soul, spirit, and don't forget spine. And we will see you this time next week. Have an amazing week. Bye for now.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching the Sales Leader of Influence show with your host, Bernadette McClelland. See you next Wednesday live at 5 o'clock Eastern.